the problem they solve. So I love the wins that we get every single day with people.
Thank you, Darryl. We're so glad to have you join us. Kenny?
Good morning. My name's Kenny McCleary. I'm Vice General Manager with Wyco Tire Technology in East Tennessee. We're a company with about 35 employees at this location. We have an office in the UK as well. And we design and manufacture what's called tooling for the tire industry. So the Goodyears and Bridgestones and Michelins of the world buy our equipment and then build their tires on them. So it's kind of a specialized niche market, but we also get involved in some just contract manufacturing services for the East Tennessee area. I've been in the tire industry now for about, I guess about 16 years. And so but I've also been in other areas of manufacturing, and manufacturing is just, it's cool. We need more of it. And there's so many different aspects of it. It's creativity at its best. And so we really encourage our local community, kids, young adults, to get involved in it. And speaking from experience, my background is mainly mechanical engineering, but I have done or do just about every facet of the manufacturing process. And for me, when I was in high school, I began with the School to Work program, which got me started in the career path that I'm in. So it starts early, it starts young.
And then in Ohio, we have Sandeep.
Hey everybody, I am Sandeep Suvetti. I guess let's start with a little background. I am a mechanical engineer. I grew up in Michigan, went to Michigan State University, and after I got my undergrad, I hired into Honda in 2007. So I just had my 15-year anniversary at Honda. For 14 years, I did new product development. Every one of our cars has a life cycle of about 5 to 6 years, and we designed a brand new generation of that product. Just because a designer draws it up in a computer doesn't mean a factory can build it. So a lot of what I did was design for manufacturing, making sure that the designs that were coming from our R&D house could actually fit within our factory, fit the characteristics of our plant, and meet safety, quality, cost, delivery targets for our facility. I did that for 14 years. I was a new model project leader also. And then a year ago, I shifted more into the manufacturing side of our business. I am the paint and materials quality unit manager at our East Liberty, Ohio plant. So a little bit about Honda in Ohio. We have over 13,000 employees in the state of Ohio. We build about 1.2 million engines, about 1.1 million vehicle transmissions, and close to 750,000 cars and SUVs every single year just out of Ohio. At my East Liberty auto plant, we build about 250,000 vehicles a year. We build some of the North America Honda CRVs. We build all of the Acura MDXs and all of the Acura RDXs. Manufacturing is really cool. I never thought I would get a job in manufacturing. Coming out of school, the emphasis for mechanical engineers was always design, design, design. So when they asked me what I wanted to do, I thought I wanted to design cars. Had a really cool opportunity line up here, and it was designed for manufacturing, and I'm really glad I went for it. Having been here, we have one of our design houses just a couple miles down the road. I've had plenty of opportunities to go change careers and go over there, but I wouldn't leave manufacturing for the world. I love it. It's interesting, it's dynamic. There's a lot of social interaction with people. There's a lot of daily problem solving. And there are more opportunities than you can think of. So I think when we think about kids and pathways into manufacturing, we will take any and all, and we've got opportunities for any and all of them. you know, at its most basic, we have repetitive online job processes. If you want to come in and you want to do the same thing 8 hours a day, if you want to be done with your day and go home and have a decent paycheck, you know, there are production roles that are perfect for you. If you want to grow from there into leadership roles, we have opportunities for team leaders within the production area. We've got quality inspectors, and that kind of cascades you into kind of a leadership trajectory. We have people that investigate items and issues in market. We have technical jobs, people who teach the automated equipment within our facilities. So many presses and injection molding machines and robots. And then, you know, the sky's the limit. And we've had plant managers who have been high school graduates who just grown through production over the course of 32 years into plant leadership roles. And they've been amazing leaders because they've seen every aspect of our business. So we have very basic functions. We have very advanced functions for any and all kids. I'll stop my plug there.
Sandeep, that is fantastic. We've heard from all of our panelists, right, Kristen? Super. I'm gonna kind of ask the other two panelists to circle back and kind of talk about what Sandeep just covered, which is the variety of opportunities that are available, and maybe what sorts of post-secondary learning opportunities do you see your people coming to you with? Do you have mostly people with high school diplomas, or do you kind of have everybody?
So for M&M Industries, we've got a wide range of openings and offerings, and always looking for energetic individuals. So we've got individuals that come in without a high school degree. We've got individuals that come in just post high school. We have a work program for high school students and college students as well. College students, after every 180 hours they work, they receive $500 towards their tuition. So we've got plant managers that have only finished high school and worked through the company. I've got a couple of individuals that more recently started on the production floor, and in 3 years time, or 3.5 years time, we've got 4 supervisors and a production manager. So positions that are very stout in our business and pay extremely well. And then those that come to work for us, we encourage reinvestment in our people. So if they want to go back to school, we encourage and help support that. To me, it's just like preventive maintenance on equipment. You need to continue to invest in the individuals. So we invest, whether it's formal training, tactical training, just say it's Excel or something that's very tactical, or leadership type training and management training. I think all those are very necessary to continue to improve and grow within a company.
Yeah, for WICO, we have, although we're considered small by many measures, we cover a very wide portion of the manufacturing spectrum. So everything from concept to the engineering, all the way to the manufacturing engineering, to the manufacturing itself, raw materials, all the way through to final product, to assembly. And that's one of the things that I like about this place, is that you have such a mix, and you're exposed to so much so quickly. I've worked for multinational organizations before, and sometimes it's difficult to see a wide view of the process because you're very, very focused on a small portion of it. But whatever the workplace is like, there is so much depth to manufacturing. And whether it is in the design, or whether it is in the design of the process to make the parts, or just in the making of the parts, or the quality of it, there's so much there. What we do A lot of it is highly skilled. So as far as education, we have employees that come with just high school education, and we have college graduates, but there usually needs to be quite a bit of a learning curve still. But there's a good fit for both. And like Daryl was saying, we have leaders with very little formal training, um, and yet we have others that, you know, with it. So there's, again, it's more than just education. It's certainly important, and it certainly doesn't end. It's a continual thing, but there's a place for just about everybody at some point in the manufacturing process.
I think that's such an important just bunch of information that you all shared, because we all know that students are going to take a bunch of different paths. And so knowing that there's a variety of options to get engaged quickly is helpful. And then also that, you know, an investment in higher education could be put to use at any number of your companies. So thank you for that. We have a question in the chat, and that is, what's Mr. Davis's company and location again, please?
Company name is M&M Industries, and we are based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we've got 2 plants in Chattanooga, Tennessee, of about 500 employees in Tennessee. And then we've got a plant in Ohio. It's in Lordstown, Ohio, which is about an hour south of Cleveland. And it's just a startup plant that we started up late last year. And it's got about 50 employees at this point in time. And we have one more plant in Phoenix, Arizona, and it has about 150 employees.
I forgot you guys opened up here. I should have bugged you for MEEP placements. All right, we'll open up the floor to the teachers. So if someone would like to be brave and start us off with a question, we'd appreciate that. Go ahead, Dave Helmick.
All right, so hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I myself am a high school teacher, career tech in engineering and manufacturing. I was interested to see what you guys, if you were stuck in front of a classroom of high school teenagers right now, what would you have to say to them to get them to pursue a career in manufacturing?
I'll jump into that because I love getting in front of students, especially ones that are in the tech roles already that have seen that. First and foremost, I'd love to get them on the floor. I'd love to get them on production floor so they can see what's going on, and have them introduced to people who have progressed through production and manufacturing, from being an operator to being a supervisor to plant managers. And I think they're great stories there. But I would bring some information like that, because so many people think, and it's been talked about before, that manufacturing is dark and dungy and just dirty places to work. And I can tell you that our facilities are extremely bright. They're air conditioned. They're respectful. In the olden days, you had just bad situations and unions, and they were needed. Today, if somebody doesn't like the job and doesn't like the conditions and doesn't like how they're treated, they can go somewhere else. To me, it's very important to treat others like, and I've said this before, treat others like you would want your kids treated. And to me, that's extremely important to make sure that we're retaining people. But I think for the most part is you learn probably more than 50% of your role, or even closer to 70% of your job on the job. Going through the technical aspects helps you become a problem solver. And that's what companies are looking for. They're looking for people that are energetic about continuous improvement, solving problems, just creating the norm. The norm is change, and continuing to just try to improve what's already established. And to me, manufacturing is way more fun than service-oriented things, jobs, sales jobs. Your wins come in, daily, hourly in manufacturing environment. And to me, it's self-gratifying and very satisfying to see individuals just clamor for that success.
I'm going to take a stab at this. Kind of build on what Daryl said. I think first, so much of the country is really not aware of all the great things that are happening in manufacturing. So I feel like I need to sell it a little bit. So one, a good chunk of kids in every classroom are very hands-on, right? I would bring show and tell examples, and I'd kind of work through some of the different problems that we've had, how we work through those problems. Hey, we had this defect. This is the kind of data we collected. This is the analysis we did. Here's the final fix that we put in place. And since we did this, this is the improvement. The same types of evaluations and show and tells that we do for plant managers. I mean, the same things work. The stories translate to kids. Another thing that I think is really important. So my wife is a librarian, and so she gives me a lot of data on she's a children's and youth services librarian. So I forget the exact number, but I think she said something like 90% of teenagers pick one, when you ask them what they want to be, they pick one of 9 or 10 career paths. And very quickly, they kind of make a judgment that, hey, I think I want to get into this, but I'm not good at science. So that career path is done. And then they're kind of left not knowing what they can do. So I kind of I'd love for manufacturing to make that list somehow so that kids kind of know that it's available, it's approachable. So I think that there needs to be some sort of explanation of these are different entry points. One entry point can be literally the production line. An entry point can be, some basic equipment technology, equipment services type things. Here are pathways in. It can be right out of college. It can be with a 2-year technical degree. It can be with a 4-year college degree. Here are growth pathways. One thing that I think we should be really open and transparent about is let's look at pay. Let's look at benefits. We can provide a really good living for a lot of kids that they probably don't know is possible for them. So, here are, typical take-home wages. Here are typical benefits. This is what you can do with that compared to other industries or other jobs. But kind of showing them that it's not just a dead-end career either. There are pathways within for growth and development. So I think some of that kind of re-education, maybe like Daryl said, bringing in photos and showing what actual production facilities look like. They're not dirty. They're not dingy. These are what we work on. These are the types of things you can do.
Yeah, I think that the short answer to that is come and see. There are tons of videos on YouTube showing modern manufacturing technology, and that's great. But to really get out in the environment, if you can find an employer who's willing to show that, that's really where the magic happens. And some of your students there will be something that resonates there. As Sandeep was saying, there are a lot of different pathways into manufacturing and out of manufacturing. So it's a whole community in and of itself, and so like I've heard the same thing that, hey, I'm not real strong in math, manufacturing's out. Not necessarily. And so there's so many different facets of manufacturing that there's a fit for a lot of people. And I think that we're seeing where in manufacturing, possibly without even college education, where there is a very lucrative career. And then again, with opportunities to go into management or into some other form of work afterwards, that really rivals a lot of 4-year degrees. So it deserves a second look for sure.
Thanks so much, guys. I'll go in order of hands raised. I think it's Mike, you're next, and then we'll do some chat questions. You guys are asking lots of great questions. Thank you for that.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for being here as well. Appreciate it. kind of in the same line of thought, I guess. You know, I work at a career center, and we get kids for their junior and senior year. And what we're always up against is having our open houses and having parents come in. We start down, I think, at the 8th grade with kids visiting and showing them some opportunities in the different career fields. And one of the things that we're always running up against is, you know, the I guess the stigma of vocational education, career tech education. Parents, big questions are always, well, do you offer honors classes, and can my son or daughter still go to college, and things like that. So the big push from a lot of schools is that you have to get a 4-year degree to be successful. And so that's kind of what we're always coming up against as well. So my question is, like, how do you, because you kind of answered what you would do or what you would say in front of a group of students, but are there any things that your companies or in your region, if you have a consortium of some sort, how do you kind of present that idea to the local community? Do you kind of have open houses? Do you have things where you can bring kids in at an early age to kind of show them that there's all these different types of opportunities and things of that nature? Thank you.
So I'm going to take a quick stab at this. Honda usually does open houses. It used to be once a year. It's kind of turned into once every few years. We haven't done one since COVID started, but that was more of an opportunity to bring in friends and family into the production facilities and show them where we work. Pre-COVID, we would occasionally see school buses with, you know, STEM programs coming through with our corporate affairs group. So we have done those. Hopefully we start doing them again soon. One of the things I've been involved with is Honda's a partner within the National Association of Manufacturers. And they did this tour around 5 or 6 different cities in the country last fall, where they had a really cool semi truck that transformed into kind of all kinds of puzzles and games, but they drew on things that we actually do in production, the problem solving and the investigating. And part of the goal was to get kids in there and also have it open so that parents could walk through too, to try to change that stigma. There is a big stigma. I don't have a great answer on how to resolve that, other than bringing people into our facility and kind of showing what we do and kind of setting the narrative ourselves.
I think it's that's correct in the aspect that we've got to sell it a little harder than we have historically. We're at a time in manufacturing where, you know, we're struggling to find people, and at all levels, and we need to bring people into the business at different levels and help them along their career path to understand you know, what they can complete and where they can get. So many people, you know, just step into a job and don't see that career path. That's something that we have to do, is create that career path and show that to an individual and show that to the parents as well, so they can see that career growth that can happen. That does not mean that they don't get a college education. In fact, in most businesses, they can be supported to get a college education if that's what they so choose to acquire. But manufacturing definitely has to do a better job selling the opportunities of growth within a business or within the environment.
Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot more to add to that. That's my answer.
I threw a link in for the greeters wanted information in the chat. So there's a lot more resources in that website. That's probably the best outreach, kind of national outreach program that I know. But obviously, one program isn't going to change a stigma, but at least it's a resource that you could probably draw on for some more information.
Thanks, Sandeep. All right, let's look. There might be a way to consolidate some of these great questions. Oh, okay. Hang on. Sean, while I synthesize these, you can ask your question and then I'll try to get these together.
Well, my question involves some of those, so it may help a little bit.
Perfect.
My name's Sean, and thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning. I teach engineering design and computer science at a high school in Alcoa, Tennessee. And one of the metrics that I am graded on as a professional educator is the percentage of non-traditional students in a particular career path. So for me, that would be persons of color, it would be girls or females. And I realize you guys are in a hiring crunch or a dilemma with just trying to get applicants, but COVID times notwithstanding, are there things that you do to try to bring them into your businesses, or things that have worked, not worked? I've not really found the right answer for just bringing them into my classes to get them hooked. So if you've got any advice, what you might be doing, I'd appreciate it.
So M&M does not do anything specifically, but I will say that females in particular are definitely scared somewhat of industrial environment, manufacturing environment. They think it's a man's world, and it absolutely is not. And I've had plants. I had a plant in Illinois that was a top performing plant, had a female plant manager, had a female production manager, and 4 female supervisors that ran 24/7. And it just clocked every other facility that I had. I mean, they just performed outstandingly. The one individual I talked about that is a production manager now, finished her high school degree about 5 years ago, started with the company 4 years ago as a production manager now. And she is phenomenal, respectful of people, but challenges to do the right thing on a regular basis. So I think some past past history of successes would probably be a very key thing to show that anybody can come into manufacturing in it and just win, just really succeed. And that all depends on how they come in with the attitude and some knowledge, but it's more attitude and will to win than anything else.
Yeah, I think that obviously there's a basic knowledge people have to be given, I guess, with some sort of a technical mind, or at least the curiosity to understand or want to understand how things go together, how manufacturing is done. But it's that interest, that ambition, that passion for making things or helping in the process somewhere of things being made. And manufacturing is a very team-oriented profession. And the people working alongside you, they're either on your specific team or they're your internal customers. And so there's a great demand for someone who is motivated, a self-starter, but a team player. And as far as the specific, and I mentioned in the comments, the specific knowledge for a job, most of that is taught. I mean, it's rare, especially for us. Again, we're specialized. It's rare for us to hire somebody who just knows what to do. It's taught, but if the will to learn is there, the passion, it can be excellent.
So it sounds like you guys are interested in hearing about specific skills, and a lot of our panelists have mentioned that. So, maybe not an emphasis on necessarily like discrete skills beyond basics like measuring and cutting and things like that. Could you all talk about the importance of soft skills? So if there's one thing that these teachers can do from kindergarten to 12th grade, would it be to focus on, collaboration, teamwork, problem solving, those sorts of things? Or are there different things that you think that they should focus on kind of at all levels?
And I saw a question from Kat that kind of addressed some of those questions, but 6 Sigma, 5S, Kaizen, lean, I think it's very important to introduce them to that. There's all sorts of exercises you can do as a team where you have individuals working on things and then you work as a team together. Great exercises out there that help everybody understand the thinking of lean and why you have Kaizen events and why it takes time for that to cultivate. And you can't just flip a switch on things and make change. You have to get buy-in and understanding, and the whole team come together. So I do think Kaizen events are excellent tools to teach people and walk them through so that they understand it. Soft skills to me are probably more important than some of the tactical skills, learning how to use Excel or some of the, machine specifics or software specifics. So the soft skills are very important. And those are obviously the things that come with experience and time. So any way you can introduce them more to some of the soft skills that are needed and why they're important and why people need to be treated with respect and why working as a team is a much more collaborative, successful way to get things done is important. So I can't stress enough that there's so many exercises out there that stress working together and highlight that working together becomes a much more productive environment, and that there's not any one individual that has a fault. If something goes wrong, the team or the processes broke down, so that there's not blame in the overall process of getting the product through or the production accomplished.
Yeah, I think, man, there's so many good questions in the chat too. As far as, things that can be taught, it depends on where. Soft skills are needed everywhere. Doesn't matter if you're technical or if you're kind of on the production floor. These skills, some of the technical training. One of the things we said last week is I fully expect, even with college grads, I fully expect that when you come in, I tend to hire based on kind of behaviors and effort that I see a person making, based on their experience. Does it look like they're kind of making the most of opportunities, trying to do internships and co-ops and other things to try to get skills training, real world skills training? That means a lot to me. Once you're within the team, growing within the environment really depends on how are you with teamwork. Can you tell a story, beginning, middle, end? What's your conclusion? You're taking my time to tell me about a problem. What's the takeaway? What do you want me to do about this? Are you looking for advice? Are you looking for me to kind of commiserate with you? Like, what's the purpose? So like communication is so key. Basic problem solving skills. Hey, I saw something, it looked strange. I dug into a little bit. I found this out. I asked a couple questions. I dug a little bit more and I learned something, right? Like the basic, just very simple, high level problem solving is hugely beneficial. That'll take you a long way. Kind of over delivering, and asking questions, being inquisitive, reporting information, clear communication. None of these are technical. These are kind of basic skills that I think come out of school. That's something that really helps move somebody ahead. And I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, so I'm just going to mute my mic now before I take us down a path.
I think that being able, like in manufacturing, a lot of it is very segmented. You have a specific role, responsibility, and that's what you do, and then it moves to somewhere else, another department, another person, another machine. And true, as of course, as you go higher up in the organization, you can see more of that. But even just on the shop floor, so much is missed in between. And so having that, hey, I'm responsible for this, so I've got a very clear picture of this, but I'm going to cast a glance before and after, and try to support both my internal supplier and my internal customer to make sure that that nothing is missed. That's one of the things. I think a lot about manufacturing is just overcoming challenges. And you think about a machine that is spitting out 1,000 widgets a day. You would think, okay, just leave the machine on, but there's so many challenges, so many variables. And there are so many people in manufacturing that is their job, is just trying to identify and solve problems. So especially with students, I think even younger grades, it's about opening their eyes to picking up an object. How is this made? How do you think this was made? If you want, take that object and break it. And see, why did it break? Where did it break? And what would you do differently? So just asking questions, and nobody's, needs to be an engineer in middle school, but it starts changing the way that people see things. And I've looked at the same objects for years as a kid, but then I look at them now and I look at it differently as in a manufacturing perspective. So I think just opening eyes and helping inquisitive, curious minds, encouraging that goes a long way for helping students get started in the manufacturing career path.
Sandeep, when you were talking, I was cracking up and Kristen caught me. She's like, are you okay over there? And I was thinking about how many times kids come to you and go, this is broken. And then they expect you to be the one with the answer to the problem. So I love the thing that you said about being able to tell a compelling story, be solution oriented. Why do you think it broke? What happened before? What happened after? What happens if you don't do anything about it? And yesterday in 101, we talked about creating a culture of problem solving in classroom, right? So, if your kids are sitting around and your trash can's full and someone's like, well, the trash can was full, so I threw my trash on the floor, empowering your kids to be able to be like, okay, what's the next step of that process? How do we get a new trash bag? Who takes it? Who do you notify? All that stuff that's like super duper practical, but I also think is important to let kids know that they can help solve problems in their own environment on a daily basis.
Heather, Kristen,
Yeah,
I plastics salary survey that breaks down in the plastics industry, male, female, ages, education, years, tenure, that I got just a few weeks ago that I will send over to you so that y'all can share with individuals. Because I see several questions being asked about how many females are in industry or in manufacturing. In our plastics industry, it's 80% male, 20% female. So very heavily weighted on the male side. So it's just data that's worth reviewing and seeing. So I'll share that so that you can share it with others.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Daryl.
Sandeep, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, but I forgot.
Okay.
If I leave
Yeah,
my
so
mic
what's-
unmuted, I'll just keep going.
What's your question? And we can answer some more questions in the chat too. Tessa, go ahead.
Question is just asking for advice on how to make manufacturing more engaging for our students. I ask this on many different levels. One, because I have sent my sophomore daughter to a manufacturing camp this week at our local community college, and she is absolutely mad that I've sent her. She has been able to gain some things from it, but she's not really engaged or entertained. It's not interesting to her, you know what I mean? And I think that might just be a lack of education maybe on the field itself. But I also teach second grade, so one of my biggest hurdles is getting the collaboration and the critical thinking and all of those soft skills, but then making it interesting and relevant to them. And I just wondered if you all had any advice on your end on how we could make that happen.
I think I said it in the chat, and I think maybe it was Daryl who said it last week, but there's a comment that almost everything you encounter is manufactured, right? I've got this mouse in front of me. I mean, take this thing apart. It is an amazing piece of technology that we just take for granted. You know, you can buy it for $7-8 at, you know, at Best Buy. You can spend, you know, $100-200 on a really fancy version. I think just kind of starting and asking, just bringing awareness to manufacturing, asking people to, because it wasn't until I started working in a manufacturing facility that it actually kind of clicked to me, that I started looking around in my world and said, I mean, hey, that toilet I use every day came out of a production facility. Who figured that out? You know, I'm glad it flushes pretty well. I'm glad it's consistent and reliable. I'm glad it does its job, right? Everything to the dishes you're eating on, the table that you're eating at, the chair you're sitting on, et cetera, the floors you walk on, it's all manufactured. I think just kind of exposing kids to the realization that everything they interact with is probably coming out of a production facility, and just kind of asking that question of, you know, how do you think it's made? You know, as far as the manufacturing day, I hope it's a more interactive experience for your child. I think there are things that I don't think we do well, like for example, within Honda, when we get brand new people in, manufacturing is redundant, it's repetitive. It's not in all areas, it doesn't have to be. The problem solving jobs are not redundant at all. They're extremely interesting and exciting, but it takes time and effort and skill to be able to progress to that level. It doesn't, that's not a job right out of school unless you've got a 4-year degree. If you're going to be coming into manufacturing with a high school diploma, you're probably going to be placed in a repetitive production type role where you're loading parts or unloading parts or doing some sort of manual process. With time and effort there, and kind of showing that you're capable of more, opportunities open for growth and advancement. So, you know, if we were to get we do get summer help at Honda for kids that are 18 and older. We do have a summer work program where kids come in. We probably do a disservice to manufacturing. We don't take them and take the time and energy and walk them through our QA labs and go through problem analysis and stuff. What do? We stick them on a repetitive process because they are labor who's there, and maybe we don't have somebody to cover an area of the line. That person's going to leave manufacturing with kind of a poor taste in their mouth. And I think that's a disservice that we do, and we do it every day. I don't know. I can't emphasize enough that there are many pathways for entry. Where you enter depends on the skill set you have when you're entering the labor market. Once you've entered, where you go, where you end up depends on the effort and the energy that you bring into the job, right? Yeah, I don't know. Did I massacre that, Daryl? Or
I think you did fine with it.
We had a question in the chat here about projections for the need of folks to be able to fill manufacturing positions. Kind of talking about how, you know, it's this persona that manufacturing is automated, although we know that that's kind of not true or necessarily the case. So what are the projections that you all foresee coming on the need to actually fill manufacturing jobs?
I would say there's definitely going to be continued movement towards automation, since there's such a struggle of trying to hire personnel. We're definitely automating, but in some aspects where, let's just say a real world example. I've got a facility where we did some automation, cost $1 million to automate. It'll pay off in a year. We weren't trying to do it initially, but we just couldn't get the labor. So it takes 8 positions a shift down to 2. But on the other side of that, now we have all this automation, and now we have to hire 3 additional maintenance guys per shift to cover and make sure that the automation is working and working properly. Many of those individuals that took on those maintenance roles were people within the business that were learning the automation as it was being installed, and they learned how to work on it and problem solve it and troubleshoot it. And then we sent them for some classes outside of the business to be a little more formal about it. But there will always be different steps in the progression of manufacturing positions. So there will always be some of those lower labor intensive roles, but I would say what we're seeing is quicker movement to some of the technical roles, but that does not mean they've got to come in with all those skills. It's great if they've got them. It gives them a leg up, but many of those skills you're going to learn on the specific equipment that you'll be coming in contact with.
Yeah, I think that as we transition to more automation, I've seen it displace workers, but on the other hand, it allows for more higher paid, more skilled labor, and that continues to be a shortage. At my facility, we have these CNC machines that machine metal, and if someone were to try to compete with that with an old technology manual machine, it wouldn't even be a race today, right? But as these machines become more productive, do we get rid of people? No. It allows us to pay those operators, the people who program those machines, more because they're more valuable. So it moves. I guess it moves the needle somewhat. It changes the type of workers that we need. Automation does, but there's so much support, maintenance, as we heard, programming, service of that comes into play, that there's going to continue to be a huge demand.
There was a question on wages, and I can just cover that real quick for us here in Tennessee in our site. So labor starts at $16 an hour. At 90 days, they're at $17 an hour. Hired a supervisor within the last 2 weeks that was at $75,000 a year. Hired a continuous improvement manager, 4-year degree, 2 years experience at $105,000 a year. Hired a maintenance person within the last 3 weeks that started at $33 an hour with great upward mobility. So it's all over the range as far as positions and where the starting point is, and it obviously depends on experience and where they've been, what they've done before.
Ooh, there's a break in the action.
I was just double checking the chat here.
I will ask my question. One, good morning, sorry. One, how do you involve, like, on the middle school aspect perspective? I just feel like sometimes with middle school, it's not enforced as much as high school to get them prepared. And I think it needs to start there. I mean, I know we have problems getting some of the machineries, but just past that. And then my second question would be, what is your ratio as far as women working in your facility and so forth, or your workplace?
So at M&M Industries, I would say we went through the survey. We're 45% women in the facilities from top to bottom, all the way through the business. You're absolutely right that we're lacking in looking at the junior high level. I made a note a few minutes ago that we've got a regional Chattanooga Regional Manufacturing Association, and I'm going to reach out to them about because we talked about a little bit last week that junior high is really when we need to capture the attention. High school is when we need to enforce it and upgrade the knowledge base of manufacturing. But really in junior high is when we need to capture their attention. And I'm just going to reach out to our regional group and see if it's something that we can start doing. One, either attending schools and showing videos of what we do, and two, having and establishing some open houses that we can walk people through. Our open houses have typically been 15 and older, but I don't see a reason why we couldn't walk them through a manufacturing high school, junior high class through a manufacturing environment.
Thanks, Daryl. I think that there's a number of ways, right? And some of it's on the community, some of it's on the teachers, some of it's on the manufacturers. So the very fact that our panelists are here today is evidence, right? That they want to engage with school. And the very fact that you all are here means that you want to engage more with industry. So we have this little group here. For our panelists, can you talk about the ways in which you interact with the community? So I know that there's obviously school partnerships, but can you talk about other places in the community where you're seeing like education intersect with industry, or places that teachers might want to check out to sort of stay engaged in this conversation, so we're not always just going to our one friend at Honda?
My wife being a librarian, I've helped, I've participated in some career days that she's done there, where she's tried to get people with various career backgrounds to come in and talk to kids. And that's where I've brought in 3D printed parts. I've brought CNC machined parts. I brought stamped and welded sections, just to kind of show a variety of things that we can do. And then kind of, I try to bring a cool car from work and park it outside just in a prime spot so that kids can kind of see it. I think that one of the big things we talked about in last week's session was how do we get more kids into manufacturing facilities? And I think that with some of the other companies, maybe that's a little bit easier to do. I would encourage you guys to try to reach out to local manufacturers and find out if are ways to do field trips. And I mean, seeing is believing. Take kids into those facilities. If that's not possible, one thing I'm going to try to commit to with the new school year is reaching out to some friends that are teachers and try to make myself available to come into classrooms to kind of talk about STEM. So I think there's different opportunities. One thing that I think within Honda, there's always been this big focus on STEM and STEAM programs. So participating with things like Science Olympiad, First Robotics. I mean, those are great connection areas. But one thing that was very clear from the teacher panel last week is some of the students they're trying to reach the teachers aren't worried about the kids that are participating in Science Olympiad. They're not concerned about the kids that are doing First Robotics. They're concerned about the kids that aren't participating. So how do you get them active? But as far as where are people, I would try to go to those programs, and I would reach out to the industry folk that are there and say, hey, this is great, but what can you do to help engage the kids that in my classroom that aren't here, that aren't participating in this event? Because they have talent too. It just needs to be kind of brought out and exposed.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Yeah, we do. We have work-based learning. We have interns for high school, and that's been successful. We'll do job fairs at schools or in the community. Next month, we're hosting a teacher externship, and there's just a variety of ways to interact, and also word of mouth. I know, for example, my wife has a friend who's the parents are both doctors, but their son is just intrigued by manufacturing, and they don't know where to start. It's like, is it safe? What do we do? Is he going to lose limbs? And so it's like that's a place where I can step up. And I think when it comes to visiting, first for like middle school, it really we need to think in terms of a middle school student. Like there be some things that are just overwhelming and possibly even traumatizing versus an older kid in high school. And then I think also, and I thought of this when Tessa was talking about her daughter going to like manufacturing week, that no two manufacturing environments are the same. That's mostly true. So my facility is going to look a lot different than Honda's. But magic happens in both places. So I think it's good. Don't just stop at one. Try to visit a variety of different types of manufacturing environments. And you never know, it might resonate with someone differently at one place or another.
Thank you. So in Ohio, we have the Ohio Manufacturing Association. Ohio Manufacturing Association is broken into industry sector partnerships. So we've got teachers who are participating with the West Central Ohio Manufacturing Partnership. They're hosting their externship for the teachers, right? So you might, if you're an Ohio teacher, you might want to see if there's a similar program in Tennessee. Your local manufacturing partnership is helpful. Also, your Chamber of Commerce. So even if you just subscribe to them on Facebook or Twitter, or just start to follow them and engage with those sort of intermediaries in our community, that's another way to kind of keep yourself involved in what's happening with manufacturing. Oh, we have the question that needs to be answered. We need to know what's in that box. Company t-shirts, 45-year celebration. Awesome. One last question, 3D printing. Do you have any suggestions of authentic ways for students to use 3D printers to mimic what you would do on the job?
Yeah. I remember my first experience with a 3D printer at work. Before we had that 3D printer, if I had an idea on how I wanted to improve something, I usually created some CAD drawings and I sent it to a machine shop, and I sat back and I waited 3 to 4 weeks for them to turn this thing around. And it was usually fabulous. And I remember I saw a problem. I drew up a solution, a idea prototype for a tool edition, and drew it up, hit go on the printer, and showed up the next day at work, and there was a prototype ready to go. And I tried it, and it didn't work. It was a bad idea, and it was a learning experience. I think that realistically, the 3D printers we use at work, those aren't intended to create, permanent tools and equipments. They're used as a tool to help us figure out what is a good permanent fix or a permanent solution, something that can be CNC cut out of nylon or machined out of, billet steel or aluminum. I think 3D printers are great for kind of the troubleshooting, just pie in the sky idea creation, to have something in your hand, tactile. Does this work? Does it feel good? Can it do the job? I think it's great in terms of kind of teaching the engineering design process, to just get kids thinking about that. But don't stop with the first iteration. Have them go through that iteration cycle of 3, 4, 5 iterations until they're happy with something, and kind of collect feedback from the other classmates or the team about, first go, what do you like? What do you not like? What can you improve? Second go, what do you like? What do you not like? What can you improve? And on until they decide that something is kind of an acceptable finished product that should be produced by a tool and die shop.
All right. Well, with that, we will definitely want to respect Sandeep, Kenny, Daryl, your time. We appreciate you all hopping on and giving us an hour of your time 2 weeks in a row. I know that we have solidified a lot of questions and concerns that we had around manufacturing. So we appreciate each of you kind of helping us break down some of these barriers and myths. And I think the teachers are going to be able to walk away with something valuable. So we appreciate your time. And if everybody wants to come off mute and yell thank you, it's the best thing in the world to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you all for what you do.
Yeah.
Bye.
Real quick, I have to show you guys this, because I'm over here giggling. And then we'll break. Hold, please. Thank you for sending this, because I'm always up for something that's really cute and timely and funny. So Who sent that to me? I just got it. Carolyn,
I did, yeah.
did you see that in real life?
No, I didn't see it in real life, but I have a Jeep, and so I'm a part of a couple of the Jeep Girl sites, and somebody put it on there, and I just thought it was so funny because I was like, that is us, and that's
Yeah.
so cute. That's so funny.
That's us. Yeah. I
knew
think
you
it's our
wrote
new
it.
mascot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's how I look every day. Meep.
Beep, beep, beep.
That's how I feel for sure. All right, we're gonna go ahead and break off. So 201 folks, I will throw the Zoom in the chat, and I will see you on the other side. Y'all have fun.
Thank you so much. Are we so ready for a break? Okay, cool. Let's take 10 minutes. 10 minutes is really the magic number, even though it feels long. We'll come back at 46. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you so much. I'm over here crunching on kids cereal like a child. There were Apple Jacks in my cupboard. And I was like, oh yeah, Apple Jacks sound delicious.
Cereal is the best.
I know it. We weren't-
Captain Crunch right here for me. Kills me. Love it.
we weren't allowed to eat this kind of cereal when I was little. So sometimes when I let it be in my house, I feel like I'm like doing something I'm not supposed to, and I love it.
We always had it, but I never realized how stinking expensive it was until I started buying my own groceries.
No
It's a small
kidding.
fortune in cereal.
Yes. It's funny. We'll let Snowville in. All right, we should be back. What'd y'all think about that?
It was good. A lot of good information, a lot of good stuff, a lot of good questions.
It felt like there was not enough time, like we could talk to them all day. Today is my favorite day because I think it really helps connect the dots. At some point, one of our panelists was saying, you know, we need them to solve problems. We need them to, you know, and I was like, keep saying all those magical words that we keep talking about. Any other comments or questions about the panel?
I think they were right about the stigma, and I don't think that of what manufacturing looks like. And I don't know that I really recognize that I probably had some of those myself until, listening to them talk about what that job really is nowadays. Because I think I still have this vision of it like in the 40s in my head.
Or like a factory, like the only choice, if you go work at that place that makes that's manufacturing, I'm going to work in a factory. I'm going to be standing on an assembly line, and you're only going to do the same thing over and over and over again. And you don't need to be smart or educated to do that. I think that those things persist. I think we have to be really honest that those things persist. I have to tell you that recently I went to this place called Vitacraft in Northwest Ohio, and they make pet food for small pets, rabbits and stuff, birds. And there was this girl standing there. She was literally working on an assembly line, right? She's pulling a bag, opening a box, shoving that. And I was like, man, that's probably got to be really, really hard. I was like, that's either the best job in the universe because you just have to do that one thing and you can leave it there when you leave. There's not a bunch of drama to think about, or it's like terribly boring. Well, that's my perspective, right? Like, I don't know. And I didn't get a chance to ask that girl. I think that one of the things that they were saying was like, Sandeep was saying, like at Honda, I don't think that they give everybody an opportunity to really see like what's next. So if you only ever go in there and you only ever make that one decision about that one station that you work on, you might. So if we can kind of like really give people the opportunity to see the breadth and the depth of all those jobs or really what goes into it, that would be super helpful. Another thing that I did, which I thought was hysterical, so I'm going to tell you guys this story real quick. We were walking around with the head of maintenance, and this guy was internationally traveled. He worked for some other big company and then came to do this little job for retirement. But I know he's making bank because he can like fix all these machines and he knows everything that's going on. And so I said to him, I said, hey, I used to wait tables for a long time. I said, and I'd always have these server nightmares where I'd have to walk up all these steps with these big trays of food and I could never get up all the steps because like the staircase just kept growing. I said, what's your work nightmare? And he said, oh, I have tons of them. And I was like, tell me about them. And he said, well, I have a dream that I come in here and this whole assembly line, this area, this factory warehouse is filled with giant rabbits. And the rabbits are just there like eating all the food. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a good one. And then he said, I have this other nightmare where I'm on top of the tower. There's like all these big grain bins with all these tubes. he said, I dream that I'm like on top of the tower fixing something and I get stuck up there and I keep hollering for the neighbor because they're like in this farm and there's a farmhouse next door. And she's like, nope, you're stuck. I'm not coming to get you. And so someday I want to make a podcast about what people's work nightmares are, or make that be a question that I ask panelists so that you can really get a flavor for like what's good and what's not good. But I thought that that was a really funny way to approach this very professional man, and he cracked up. So I liked it. In the chat, like when Laverne and Shirley were on the assembly line, Laverne and Shirley, also that, oh my gosh, Lucy sketch, right? Like they're eating all the chocolates. Yeah, I think that's what we think about, right? And I think one of the misperceptions that we have in our society is that teachers know all the things. And you guys don't get enough credit for perfecting your craft, right? You are learning about being a teacher, how to be a better teacher every day. And that Tommy doesn't have his lunch, and that Billy's parents aren't home, and that so-and-so doesn't have electric. And like, you're focused on your craft. Manufacturers are focused on their craft and getting better at their craft. Having spaces where we can come together and speak to one another about how to connect those two pipelines together are really, really important. Laverne and Shirley, hard to keep up with everything, but I can see the magic in every member of that panel. It is hard to keep up with everything. I think that's why having those group notes are good. Martin, can you talk about your comment about how them being honest about doing a disservice to the industry?
That I was just reflecting back at you when Sandeep was talking about how when they bring their students in for the summer, they put them on those repetitive tasks, and they may be reinforcing the negative stereotypes and stigma rather than taking them out and off the line and doing some of that problem solving that might engage them. I just thought that was super metacognitive of him to be able to say, step back and say, hey, maybe we need to be handling these students better when we have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Marty, I completely agree with you. I place students, and one of our challenges is the employers. They seem to, some of them are just looking for an arm to pull a lever all day, and there's not a lot of growth. But the employers, there's a lot of employers out there too that they want growth. They want to train the kids on how to do stuff, and we just got to go through and weed these employers out, because not all of them are good. That's just the way it is. I completely get what you're saying, though.
Yeah. I also think it's hard to talk to kids about jobs when a lot of kids don't have any concept of money, right? Like, if you say you're working for $20 an hour, a lot of kids don't understand what the purchasing power of $20 an hour is and what that means relative to like how many bills you have as a grown-up. So I think it's hard. Like, we want to lead with, they're making this much money an hour. Like, what's the difference between 40 and 60 and 120,000 in dollars to kids? And like, how do you explain all of that? I certainly didn't get that when I was entering the workforce.
I think like a cross curricular with this would be good too, because if we could get math kind of on board to help do some activities, real world math activities,
yeah,
to help them see. I know at the end of the year, our math teachers did something kind of like that, where they had to learn, they had a job, and this much money, had to learn to kind of budget and do things like that. But if they start seeing the value of that and kind of what real world looks like, and
yep, you're absolutely right. That's a good cross-curricular tie-in, some additional context about the world of work. Mike, what is your question?
Yeah, well, two things now. One thing with just what she just said, our school a couple years ago started implementing and about every kid takes it now, a financial algebra course, which does what you were talking about. It kind of helps the kids like come up with budgets and like look for apartments and things like that, so they can kind of get a feel for, you know, I do make this much per hour, but these are all the expenses that I'm going to have. And we have some kids, you know, the really good ones that jump into the programs and, you know, they're 18 and they're already living on their own before they graduate. And they're talking to me about like, I got rent this week and I can't go with my friends because I need to pay for gas and things like that, which is great. But one of the things I wanted to mention was that, and this was kind of why I brought up my question. Our school does a really good job, our career tech instructors, on taking kids out on field trips in the industry. I mean, individual programs though. So if you're, you know, working on CNC, you know, they're going to those particular industries. And so those kids are going out and they're seeing what it's like on the floor, but then they're also being exposed to some of those other positions within those companies. And that's great. But the problem is, I guess, is those are the kids that are already hooked and in the program. And so, you know, it's just really hard when we're trying to promote our programs. You know, like I'm the first person and only person really in my whole family to go to college. So I got to experience that. Everybody else was manufacturing, which was fine, but that was why, like, you're going to college. Okay. And so I started off working in industry, came back into teaching. And then when I went from a traditional high school to the career tech, it was like, it clicked. It's like, yeah, this is exactly what kids need to be seeing. But when we have parents come in, it's really hard for the parents who already work in manufacturing. It's not a hard sell. Like, they're like, yeah, you know, I want to do what my mom and dad does, you know, whatever. It's the parents who have maybe a more of a white collar position, letting their kids go to a vocation, right? So like letting a kid, you know, go into a manufacturing type job, blue collar, I guess you'd call it. That's where we really run into our problems. And again, a lot of that is stigma and just not understanding that, you know, this could just be a stepping stone to something bigger. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. That's what we're running up against all the time with recruiting kids. We try to start at an early age, 8th grade. They come around all the time. And but anyhow, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think that's where we are right now in general in our society, Mike, right? A lot of us who are on this screen, our parents thought that they were doing us, you know, what they were supposed to do, send us to college, right? And maybe not a lot of direction, but they thought, because a lot of the generation before us, they didn't go to college, right? So send your kids to college and you've done something and you're doing better than the generation before us. And that was like everybody's goal. Well, now we've got this humongous student debt crisis. And it's like, oh, shoot, did that decision to go to college pay off in the way that we anticipated? And now I think more than there has been probably for the last 20 or 30 years, demand for knowing what the different options are and knowing you can do this with a 2-year degree. This is a 4-year degree. This is not any additional post-secondary, or go work for this company and then let them pay for your higher education. And so that's why I think that these conversations are so important. I know in Ohio, we're changing the diploma requirements, and there's a lot of emphasis on industry recognized credentials now, and just different opportunities to engage in work-based learning that didn't used to be on the table even 5 years ago. So it's interesting to see, but I think we're in the middle of a big sea change with regard to education, higher education, and workforce. Would you guys agree with that assessment? Yeah. All right. We have, I didn't know that you could get 1 of 12 graduation points for having a driver's license. I literally didn't know that, Doug. Yeah, that's something to put in my hip pocket for knowing. But even when kids are getting like kids aren't moving towards driving like they were when I was 16. I got my license the day I
could get 16. All of my kids working if they had licenses, but it also takes money to get a car.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Wow, that's weird. Okay, we have to move along, you guys. I love that we're having such good discussion. Have a technical issue that we need to resolve. There is a community partner map in the edX folder that belongs to someone. Someone who wrote about Smith and Nephew, More Tech, Labinar, Pharmacy Tech, Boys and Girls Club. If this document belongs to you, which is in the chat, please rename it so I can give you credit for having done it. I also modified, Marty and I had a conversation this morning. I know that some of the links in the class don't force you to make a copy. I've updated some of the links in only the PBL course to make it so that you have to make a copy, like it won't let you play with it otherwise. So if you see a different thing happening, please know that I snuck in there last night and again this morning to make some modifications. I feel like that class is constant, continuous quality improvement, always tweaking something. So if it broke something, please let me know. So today, here's what we're doing for the rest of the day. Thank you so much for being such good participants in our panel this morning. We're going to work through the engineering design process in small groups with a case study activity. Before we do that, are there any other technical questions or problem solving questions or administrative questions about this course or experience that we should talk about? Everybody cool getting through the content, saying we're not worrying about green check marks? Cool, that's nice. I'm glad to hear that. All right, so we're gonna break in small groups.
Heather, I'm sorry. Real quick, did you want us to go back and check all of those on that one that didn't want to give us credit if we just did two?
No. If you made a copy, it's fine.
No, on that one question that asked us our preference.
Oh,
don't
sweat it.
Okay, just making sure, because I can go back, check them all and make it give it to me. I just didn't know that's what I needed to do.
No, and in fact, in my edit to the OREP course, I just made that question. I killed it. So I'm not gonna sweat it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Yep. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Am I sharing this screen? Can you see the manufacturing case study? Okay. Okie doke. My screen is bleeding onto the other screen. That's really annoying. Come on. Oop, there we go. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna present a case study to you guys. We're gonna do an example case study and then we'll break into small groups and do case studies together, okay? So let's pretend, and this is gonna be the scenario for all of the case studies going forward. We have a steel mill, the steel mill that produces steel beams. The steel mill is a large division of a vertically integrated steel company that provides construction supplies to 75% of apartment building construction projects for a city of 1 million people. So lots of these new apartments that are being built are using this company's steel beams. So it's a pretty popular company, okay? The steel mill has ramped up production 5 times since the start of the year because they have all this demand. So to make up for this demand, employees are having to work additional hours. We're going to suspend our reality for a minute. We know that there's a workforce shortage and the answers that we come up with probably aren't going to work in today's labor market, but that's okay. How can we use the design cycle to help the steel mill solve the increased demand for labor? So if we were to walk through the engineering design process for this, we would do ask, imagine, plan, create, test, improve, right? So what's the problem? Oops. What's the problem that needs to be solved? So the problem is, can you still see my screen? Okay. How can we increase manpower? How can we increase production, right? What are different possible solutions for that? Different possible solutions could be hire temporary labor, add additional shifts, outsource the additional work, build another plant, right? I'm sure there are more solutions than that, but for the purpose of this example, these are the solutions we came up with. What solution do you want to pick of the ones that you brainstormed? Well, we're going to try to add a third shift, allow for overtime, and hire additional staff. Okay, so we're going to take a three-pronged approach to get more steel beams coming out of this company. How are we going to test our solution? We're going to pilot this for 6 months and get feedback. Do we have enough workers to really do that third shift? Do people really want to do overtime? Can we hire additional staff? Like, what are those tacks are working? And then how are we going to like see if the solution worked and make improvements by looking at the production numbers to see if they actually did increase, determine if the new shift is accurately operating, like those people that we worked really hard to get on third shift, they doing a good job? So we're going to implement a solution and then figure out how we're going to check and see if that's working. Does that all make sense? Okay. So we have 2 more case studies. Okay. So yesterday, I forget how many groups we broke up into. Today, we're going to break up into 2 groups. There's case study A and case study B. Groups 1 and 2 are going to do case study A, and groups 2 and 3 are going to do case study B. We're going to go through the case studies together, and then each group is going to write down your solution on a sheet that I will provide for you. Here's the sheet, look. I'm going to post this in the chat. You only need 1 per group, okay? So we're only gonna have 4 of these in the end. Okay. Can you still see my slides? Okay. Case study 1. Production at the steel mill has been transitioning to a robotic platform option to improve efficiency. 60% of current employees do not know how to use the new technology. So this company is automating. You have to identify what is the problem and then come up with some solutions, pick one solution, come up with a plan for how you're going to implement and test and get feedback about that solution. So this one, case study 1, is going to be for groups 1 and 2. Okay. The next case study is the steel mill has lost business because their steel products have been shown to have defects that make them unable to support new building weight requirements. So somewhere along the way, like these steel beams are not up to current specs, current code. So we have to use the design cycle to help the steel mill improve their product's reputation and or quality, because there's 2 issues in this one. Okay, so they're like not meeting the requirements, and people are like, well, we don't want to buy their steel because it's not up to snuff. So I would like for you guys to break into 4 groups. I'll do that in a second. And each group is going to fill out that sheet. Groups 1 and 2 do case study 1. Groups 3 and 4 do case study 2. We clear? Cool. I'm going to put you in 4 breakout rooms. How long is this going to take? 15 minutes? Okay. Let's try 15 minutes. I'll check with you guys in 15 minutes, and if it doesn't work, we'll add more time. I'm going to open the rooms, go forth to your assigned room, and I'll be around to check on you.